Eric, this is it's a little embarrassing because this is our 100th episode of Iron Culture, and I was going to surprise you, man. So, we've had a lot of great episodes. We've accrued a lot of loyal, faithful members of the cult, and it's been wonderful to see that. So I want to do something special. I wanted to get all the most prominent guests that we've had on, bring them on back for basically the largest roundtable that the fitness industry has ever seen. We're talking 12, 15 people deep. Just think of a who's who. You got the Schoenfelds, you got the Knuckles, you got the guy who's trying to be you, who honestly I can't remember his name because he's not that memorable. We got Gabriel Fondaro. Okay, we have 12 to 15 people deep. And Eric, I should just be upfront with you, and I probably should have told you before we started recording, but every single person turned us down, and they made it clear it wasn't about us. It just seems to be about the controversy that we seem to attract. And I was trying to tell them that they, who will explain exactly who they are out to get us, and we don't start the shit, but you best believe we end it.
Yeah, I think, of course, if you're going to start shit, you better end that shit. So you don't want to be there halfway through pinching off a lobe in life. So that's just not the way to be. And, on top of that, I think something that a lot of people miss in our community is the fundamental truth that all PR is good PR,
Right.
I mean, if people hear of you, how could that be bad? That's kind of the way I look at it. Some people say, well, what about your respectability and your reputation and setting a good moral standard and understanding that fitness is about bringing people together? I say, you know what? Just get on YouTube and make fun of people.
Yeah.
Hire a full-time editor whose job is to make other people look stupid.
Yeah.
And don't contact them beforehand. Don't even reach out to say, hey, this is just for PR. Are you comfortable with this? Just do it. Because hopefully they'll get mad at you and post about it. Win-win. And by win-win, I mean you won twice, nobody else. So all I got to say to everyone out there who turned us down for coming back on because it's too controversial, you had an opportunity to level up, and what did you do? You watched that mushroom go right on by, you ran right by the warp tube, and you fell down a hole. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That's what.
And Eric, I'm going to speak for both of us. We're never fucking inviting you again. So that's your last chance. We're cutting everyone off. So if you notice a lot of duos, it's because in the future, the foreseeable future, just me and Eric talking together. It's because we wanted it that way. We didn't even want them. I should ask you, Eric, quickly, because we could review. This is the 100th episode, and we're incredibly grateful for, once again, being serious here, the audience that has come together for the cult. We're going to be reflecting, but I think it would be pertinent when we talk about controversies if maybe we just talk about the latest thing that happened a little. I don't know if you want to kickstart it a bit, but maybe the cult then will understand, see our perspective, okay? Gain some empathy for us who are the much maligned.
No PR is bad PR.
Yeah.
I mean, all PR is good PR. You know what the saying is.
Yeah.
But yes.
So what happened? What happened, Eric?
Why don't you start?
Okay, so
set the scene.
Picture this. If you haven't seen the seminal movie Highlander, it's based on a real, true story. Okay, it's based on historical events, and so Eric was playing what I thought was a homage, as some would say, to Highlander by competing in Highland Games. That's the origin of Highland Games, the Highlander. And as we know, in Highlander, much like the capitalist society we live in, there can only be one. And so, anyways, Eric is in this kilt. He's looking just downright aesthetic. My man's looking toit. He's crushing it. He's doing the tosses. He's lifting it over his head. He's throwing it around. He's just looking not only aesthetic, he's clearly in the lead. Even though I didn't see a leaderboard, I could only surmise that, once again, Eric was in the lead. Anyways, probably the most iconic and instantly recognizable event, Eric, would be what event in the Highland Games? What would it be? Can you describe it to them, what it's called and what that would be?
Yeah. So first on the leaderboard, let me just say I was in the top 6. So,
right. Hey.
That could be first, that could be 6th. I'll let you decide. And I'd say the iconic event in the Highland Games would probably, I would say most would consider it the caper toss, as I understand it. Now, granted,
Yes.
I've only done one competition. It was a blast, for the record.
So you're a vet.
Yeah, I mean, so coaching, hit me on the DMs. Bring your own cabers, because I don't have one. I've only done it once. But that's sure damn hell more than you have in most cases. Kyle Lilly, I hope you're not listening, because that's not true in your case. So yeah, it's pretty cheap. I mean, you rent out a couple of your rooms, sell your car, and I'm sure we could at least get a month of coaching together. And by that, I mean, I'll have someone send you a PDF.
And Eric, how does one judge this event? Because to me, it was a flagrant violation of judging by the judges when they scored your caber toss, where it should have been, and you're going to describe what a 12 o'clock is. It was clearly 12 o'clock, okay? My man was standing at attention. They didn't see it that way, and that's where the controversy came into place. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a second to be serious here. The scoring of the caber toss, just for those who don't understand, and I learned this from our lovely episode with Kyle Lilly, pro Highland Games competitor, who, by the way, just competed in the Winter Warrior over at Alan Thrall's Untamed Strength, placed second, won a number of events, fantastic performance. The man's a beast, and I mean that as a compliment. Kyle Lilly described it as you're going for accuracy. So if you're able to actually turn the caber over, you flip it end over end, and then it falls in a direction past the 90-degree angle. And then you think of it like a downward-facing clock. You're looking at a clock, you got 12 o'clock. So when you flip it end over end, it lands perfectly straight from your release. That's a 12 o'clock score. And then you get the score is based on the proximity to 12 o'clock. So, a 10 o'clock is worse than an 11 o'clock, etc. Or on the other side of it, a 2 versus a 1.
Right.
However, if you aren't able to turn it and, it gets up and then falls back or directly to the side, you get a degree score. So 90 degrees all the way down to not getting a score if it's doesn't turn and it's perfectly straight.
Right.
In the event I did, they were only doing o'clock scores. There was no degrees. I guess they just couldn't find a big enough protractor. So the instruction I was given, and this is what I heard, and I think that means this is what was said, was that you need to turn the caber or land it straight. So, I'm strategic. I'm a tactical guy. I thought, turning the caber, that looks challenging and hard and might take a lot of practice, maybe months and years. Ain't nobody got time for that. Quite literally, I only had about 20 minutes. Right. So I thought, I can get this thing to land straight. If I've got the option, straight or turn it, I'm going straight. So I picked it up, which is a challenge in and of itself. Yes. Launched that sucker. It landed almost perfectly straight. Didn't register a score. Wow. And then apparently, after the fact, I'm told to get a 12 o'clock score, you need to not only turn it or get it straight, you need to turn it and get it straight. So, I mean, like I said, you mentioned it before, we live in a capitalist society, got to embrace that. One of the things we can't have is false advertising, especially here in the fitness community where almost everyone means what they say what they mean. And if you buy a product, you know what you're going to get. Like if you sign up for Highland Game Coaching with me, you will absolutely be getting someone else using my email address sending you a PDF for generic coaching
just
that
smart
I probably
business
stole from someone else online.
Yeah,
it's just standard good marketing. Exactly what you'd expect. You get it. Read the fine print, folks. And by that, I mean, make sure you listen to this episode because you will not be told it's not me in real time. So I felt they didn't adhere to those principles that have founded this great cult and nation and world, one and the same, which is, I always get the 12 o'clock no matter what. But the rules stated that I should have based on what I did anyway. So it is what it is. I think, as one great philosopher once said, give me a 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Eric, you said it. And I think they are expecting us to be complicit here where we're not going to say anything because they're the big Highland Games and that we're mere just, respectable, upstanding citizens that are going to follow whatever they say. But I had to make the comment because clearly, as you said, I think the way that we could win this is that they weren't clear. You heard an or. You're playing it strategic. And I said to Kyle, I tagged him, I said, can you talk to these frigging reps The caber toss was at 12 o'clock, and I'll fight anyone that says differently. And you said, I heard you need to turn it or get at 12 o'clock. Apparently, they said, and. Someone said, probably likely a member of the cult, and I can only assume an upstanding citizen. I tried negotiating with them, but they red carded me. Wow. So you see now, when you voice an opposition, you immediately get silence. We see how this thing is happening. Cool. Okay. And
yeah,
then,
that's Kazu, by the way. Shout out Kazu. Did the backyard Highland games with us.
dude.
Had the same issue. You know, he wasn't alone. You know, I wish I could say that this was us being isolated and targeted. But apparently, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, it's extended to friends.
No.
It's extended to other people. So even a loose affiliation with the cult has led the powers that be to discriminate because they recognize the cultural zeitgeist that we've started, and they don't want it to happen.
Well, and that's why, it's weird, Eric. It's now whatever day it is. And the Rogan episode still hasn't aired on his channel, which is a whole other controversy. I'm sure that's no big deal. It was great having him on. He was lucky that we decided to come on. It feels to me kind of like the McCarthy era, right? Where we're getting blacklisted here.
Yep.
And so Kyle, in response to what I said, he said, damn refs down there don't know what they're doing. That's Kyle Lilly, okay? Mr. Flower Power himself, respectable Highland Games athlete. And then I just said,
At least, maybe not anymore. And here, shout out to Kyle Lilly for coming forward. You know, it's been said that you got to use your privilege to help those that are less privileged. And he is a man in a position where he's a notable figure in the Highland Games community. And he talked about how important tradition and paying your dues are in that organization. And he took a stand. And I don't take that lightly. You know, he made probably the most important, statement you could on the best platform. And that is a comment on Instagram. Which might as well have been, driving to their house, knocking on the door and shaking their hand and then respectfully telling them. It's almost 2021, depending on when this episode comes out, because we haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yep.
But it's the current year, folks.
Yeah.
And that means it's modern, and that's just when you take a stand. If it's not done on Instagram, did you even take a stand?
Thank you. Yeah, and so I said, we honestly might need to address this controversy in an episode, which is exactly what we're doing. They expect us to be silent. And I could tell that my man, Eric, was so... See, Eric, you're stoic, okay? You're almost statuesque. How you hold yourself, and you're not going to let it affect you. But there's little things that I noticed. As an example, you're a little bit more verbose normally post-competition. Ben Escrow, a shout out to Ben Escrow, one of our homies. He said, this is awesome. And you said, dude, it was awesome. Mike Israel, another homie, said, very cool. And you said, dude, it was awesome. So you said the same comment to different people. Because once again, I could tell the mental energy that you had to expend just to not flip your shit at the event must have been considerable. So, Eric, I just commend you, my man.
It was a challenge. I had to tell my Instagram manager, hey, make sure you're conveying the restraint that you would expect me to have if I was mad. And he got back to me and he said, I don't know how to read between the lines. You don't pay me enough. What do you want me to say? And I said, just say, dude, it was awesome. Thanks, or thank you, or put the little praying hands there. It's the same thing as always. Just do your job or you're going to get fired. And he said, I've got a lot of kids. I'm in a country where it's being really negatively affected by COVID. Yep. And then I hung up mid call because he was giving me that back talk. So yeah, more or less you're right. Through someone who does my job for me. And yeah, so I guess the point I'm getting to is it's just another story of oppression that I've had to deal with.
Eric, it must be hard being really, really ridiculously good looking. And I've seen just the ways, once again, I was backstage with you, and that's why we're doing a reflection here. It's episode 100 of Iron Culture. What is our line for all lifters? I was there, okay, at the River City Royal Rumble that my boy took in 2019. And what's crazy? They decided in 2020 not even to have it because they knew no one could replace you. Some might say it was due to COVID-related complications. I say they're scared of my boy Eric because nobody wants to step up when he comes out there. But I saw the side eyes when my man was looking just downright aesthetic, and they're like, oh, that's Eric right there. So it must be tough, and the way that you carry on with grace and dignity is something we can all aspire to be like. And that's why we rise above. This is episode 100 here. They said we couldn't do it. They said we had no chance. They weren't expecting us. Certainly, we weren't expecting ourselves after the numerous technical difficulties we had in the first few episodes. And we needed one Danny Lennon to actually explain to us how to use, microphones and record. And he certainly gave us a leg up. Whose leg it was, we can't say. But it helped us tremendously. And so it's amazing that we're here. And I guess if I had to quote another philosopher, if I may, Eric, real quick.
The same philosopher who said, give me that 12 o'clock.
I believe so, yeah. Sir Elton John, he's been knighted. It's a fact. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm still standing better than I ever have. And that's us together.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Danny, thank you for that, giving us that leg up and us. And respecting the fact that we needed to immediately burn that bridge for no reason.
What we do. It's
just the way we roll.
Yep.
And, thank you for acknowledging that I've had to deal with this adversity, but I've come with it with grace and humility, maybe even the most humility anyone's ever seen. But I wouldn't have it any other way, Omar, because when I place in the top 6 in a competition, or when I win, a small local competition, just know that because the chips are so stacked against me, it's like the wall of Frito-Lays. Know that that's the equivalent of winning like a world championship if you're me,
Yeah. No, it's bigger. It's bigger. It's galactic at this point.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I think just consider that I'm basically always at a handicap,
Yeah.
I'm always dealing with that. So thank you to everyone for crowning me the galactic champion of Highland Games, despite the adversity.
Cue the Queen song, Princes of the Universe. Here we are, born to be kings, princes of the universe. And for those that have made it this far, Eric, we've fulfilled our contractual obligation given to us by our predecessors of 15 minutes a round of banter. We wanted to give an extra thick amount just for those that really seem to enjoy it, which is everyone that's remained and stuck with us. We have purposely weeded out those that said, I thought this was about science. And we said, that's where you're wrong, kid. What I look like a study to you. We made it.
We learned from the Soviet system, folks,
right?
Or the Bulgarian system, or whichever one you think is just a grinder that spits out the weakest. And probably none of those are actual true representations of everything that goes into it, but just the words of bitter Americans from the 80s. But nonetheless, that's the model we adopted, even if it didn't actually exist. And here we are. But in all seriousness, now that we've done our contractual obligation, I just want to say a huge thanks to the New Zealand Strongman Series, Chris Latham, Lay, and all the crew that puts on these awesome competitions. The Backyard Highland Games 2020 was an excellent way to end the year, especially after everyone across the world has had to deal with, on and off lockdowns and gym closures. And some people I've seen have had to deal with injuries from coming back to training, from being off and not being able to manage those spikes in workload, and just the mental stress of it on top of all that. We've had it really easy here in New Zealand, but we still had 2 lockdowns. So I think that gives you some perspective on how bad it is in some place of the world. So my heart goes out to you, and I just really felt a ton of gratitude for having the opportunity to do something like the Highland Games. I got myself a kilt. Thank you, Rory. Shout out for renting that for both of us, so we could pay our respects. And it was just really cool. It was a lot of fun. Omar, I think you'd be really good at it because you got some power in them delts. You got some power in them legs, and I think you do well with the events. So anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Lilly for when you were on that episode, and folks. More people need to watch that episode because the passion just comes through. It got me excited, and it was my final opportunity to more or less complete the goal that I set forth in 2020 of training for and competing in 3 different strength sports. Despite the fact that I trained for strongman, weightlifting, and powerlifting, and ended up competing in weightlifting, powerlifting, and Highland Games, I checked my old post. I didn't distinctly say that I had to compete in the same 3 strength sports that I trained in, but just that I would train and compete in 3 strength sports. So mission accomplished. And to all the haters who are saying it's just a Pyrrhic victory, well, a victory is a victory. A W is a W, okay?
Yeah. And Pierce was a badass, okay, as a general. He actually won all of his most of his battles, I should say. And if it basically wasn't for the fact that he couldn't get troop replenishment, he would have dominated Italy. I'm going to go ahead and say it, okay? He already had the southern tip. The Greeks had already colonized it. It's a whole thing. So when people say, once again, Pyrrhic victory, it's a compliment. And I appreciate, Eric, that you held up the trifecta, okay, the holy trinity of us, of doing the damn thing, because over here in Toronto, we're humble, relatable, just like you, where we could travel halfway around the world. I was supposed to meet up with Eric. He said, please don't come. I can only assume that was due to COVID because it was right around that time. It certainly seems like, to me, the most likely explanation. I did have those dreams to compete this year in Toronto, in Canada. Everything's basic. I think gyms have been shut down. If we're now, it's so reflecting back on 2020 for 90% of the year, 85% of the year. Competition. There's one competition I could have done in fall, but it was in another province, and province to province travel was a thing you weren't supposed to do. Like all these things, and it was in a rural part. Basically, there was a bunch of people that said, F it, we're still going to have a competition. So it's almost like a mystical thing, blood sport, where it's this underground thing that you're participating in. Should I be participating in this? Is it illegal? Is someone going to die? I don't know what's going on. So that was my one chance. I blew it. But you did the damn thing. And I think
you said no to Tyler Durden and didn't join the Strongman Fight Club of Canada.
No, yeah, I took a look at him. I said, boy, you need to bulk up. Like, 15-year-olds like, oh, man, you're in such good shape. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. If you were at the Royal City, River City Rumble, you probably would have placed last. Okay, like your conditioning's okay.
And
yeah.
Also, you forget that the Tyler Durden everyone saw was Ed Norton, not even Brad Pitt, folks. So,
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah. It was a no before. It's a definitely not now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's timely and relevant, Eric, to be serious, that you completed the trifecta. And it's one of the things that we hope to do with Iron Culture is to honor the cult, the Iron game that we all know and love, to explore various aspects of it, which I think when it comes to a long-term investment is very important. So you using your platform to bring about attention to lesser known aspects of the Iron game, because there's different niches. And I actually was reflecting on this, not even trying to be funny. When you look at podcasts, we're in the health and fitness category. And within our own little niche, you do have Stronger by Science, right? Which would be very similar. You have a few others, like Jeff Nippert sometimes occasionally pops up in there. But when it comes to fitness podcasts and their kind of direction and what they're all about, man, it's a huge space when we talk about actual topics people are interested in, or various ways that they want to frame it. I'm just looking forward to the 2021 wolf, lion, bear. I forget what the fourth one is. Diet. I can't wait for that one,
Well, they can't have snake in there or they get sued. But
no.
Yeah, swallowed whole.
Did you eat a snake in the snake? I've never. When you don't even on a cursory level want to investigate something because you just know there's nothing good there.
Yeah, I'm unsure if you eat a snake or if you act like a snake and you have to eat rodents whole. Oh. But either way, it's not a diet I want to follow.
Is it a snake diet because you're supposed to eat once, like basically at the frequency of a snake? But if they're really doing it like a snake, doesn't a snake eat like once every several weeks? Like it's not every 48 hours?
I think what you do is you have to wrap your body around the food and squish it and then eat it until it doesn't move. So like you want a banana.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
You got to wrap that sucker up until it pops out of the peel. That's how you know the banana's dead. For all shout out to all the banana hunters out there. And then you can eat it, but you have to also eat the peel, just like a snake would. You heard it here on Iron Culture. Snakes eat banana peels.
We spit a 100 facts, and if you question us, just know we'll block you because we have what's the opposite? Eric? Like what's the opposite of tolerance? What would you call that?
Success. I mean, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
like the only way to operate in life. Right. And by the way, we don't even have to see your comments anymore to block them. We've got this algorithm set up to where if there's a question mark, I shouldn't tell them. They're going to start questioning us without question marks. Okay.
Well, hey,
so this is another
weeding
problem.
them out, Eric.
We're too
weeding them out.
We're too transparent. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it won't be a problem. But anyway, question mark pops up in your YouTube comment, Instagram comment, anything like that, you're gonzo. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like, when's the next episode coming out? Gone. It's always Monday. You should have known that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's Eric, it's one of those things where I am incredibly grateful because basically every single month there's more and more listeners. And so that's what you want to see, okay? We're fighting against entropy both in our physiques and also just in life and business success, and we purely base how well Iron Culture is doing just on numbers, okay? Once again, this is a business. Just folks, look at the society we live in. Qualitative feedback of people enjoying it. Downloads, yeah, hiring people to keep downloading episodes so it just dramatically goes up every single week and we rank better and better in iTunes. That's what's up.
So Omar, I have a question. You mentioned a few times that Iron Culture is a business.
Yeah.
So I just have a couple questions and maybe you can help me out with this. So we're not registered as a business.
Technically not.
We don't have any mechanism for bringing in income.
Not at the moment, Eric. Yeah.
Right. So in what way would you consider us a business, like philosophically?
It's more like a not-for-profit, which is still a business, where we're operating at a loss. So it's either it's zero or at a loss. We're currently operating under a loss because we're doing what's called a long-term investment. So we're just playing the game, pretending to be humble, having that humility, investing thousands and thousands of dollars every year. People think we're joking that we actually, that you know, it doesn't cost anything. We do invest some money. And then eventually when a big company knocks on our door, okay, when Coca-Cola is like, hey, how would you like to sell your soul to recommend, Coke Zero instead of water? And we say, for $100 million, that sounds about right. That's the payoff. So it's a long-term strategy. By us not being technically a business or incorporated, we're very what I'd call mobile. Okay, we're very liquid. We could go to any country. And not get extradited. So it was a tactical move right now. So some might say...
There's a couple countries where we'd get extradited.
Okay, yeah. So
but that's for unrelated reasons.
Yeah, I haven't done any research, okay? This is all based upon pure speculation.
You shouldn't leave Canada is all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. I've heard that before, that I'm wanted. I thought like wanted was a good thing. It's kind of like, today, hey, like you're wanted. I'm a wanted man. Like, what does that mean?
All I'm saying is, how like you like to be wanted, but you don't want to get locked down, in one situation. Like you'd literally be locked in a cage.
It depends on the person though. Like it just depends on the scenario. The way you're describing,
it'd be the prison industrial complex.
No.
Yeah, if that's not who you want to spend the rest of your life with, then I wouldn't advise leaving. But I get it now. Thank you for explaining to me kind of the business model. So basically what we need to be watching is for other long-term planning, highly intelligent, eventually successful nonprofits who are going to get acquired. So like when Salvation Army gets acquired by Amazon for a couple billion, that's kind of when that happens.
For the Bezos.
Not if that happens.
It's going to happen. He's going to have that guilty conscience. He's like, hey, I'm paying my people basically below minimum wage. I'm accruing all this wealth for myself. And there's going to be a pang of regret. And it's going to be more, once again, a tactical move where he doesn't feel anything, but he knows that in order for people not to revolt against his company, he needs to do some PR. And that's when he acquires the Salvation Army.
Yeah, well, think about it. Salvation Army, talk about hacking reciprocity, bro. I mean, they are, quote unquote, donating things and quote unquote helping people, but we know what that means in reality. They're just waiting for that big cash in. All that reciprocity just that they put out is getting hacked. I don't really know what reciprocity means, and I don't understand hacking, but all I know is Bezos, Amazon acquire $1 billion yachts.
Yeah. And if I base it off of the films I watch, GoldenEye, Swordfish that I've seen before, it's basically just a guy like slamming a keyboard really hard, and you hear you hear every single keystroke that he makes, and that's an indication of how hard one is working. So yeah, we could definitely hack something, Eric.
Yeah, from what I've seen is you just need to go into like the little DOS thing that's on modern IBM computers.
Yep.
When you open that, then you just not type, because you don't have to put any actual words. It's quote unquote code.
Right.
You just hit your keys as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And the fact that you see a lot of things coming up in this computerized screen and it's scrolling fast, it's basically, I think it's just a speed contest, right? Yeah. Like how quickly can you get your screen to fill up with characters and scroll? Faster it is, eventually, websites just open up to you and give you money. I think that's the way it works.
We're unlocking so many secrets here, and I think if we're unlocking the secrets, Eric, I want to do a little bit of an overview, if you can indulge me a little bit. I'm getting a little nostalgic here. And just with a yes or no, Eric, do you want to reveal where you're recording this episode? You could say no.
Listen, there's normally only two things I do in this room. One being something I'm unconscious for.
Yeah.
The other being something too intimate to talk about.
Right.
You figure out which is which. And
are they ever related, those two, or not? Never.
One comes after the other sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
And now I've added a third thing that's just as intimate, and that's doing Iron Culture with you in my bedroom.
Wow. So we want to do something cozy. I was supposed to visit my man, Eric, last year, and then COVID happened, but we were able to keep the connection by doing these episodes and have a wide variety. And we really have the spectrum. When we originally came up with the concept of Iron Culture, which was just a lame way of me staying in contact with Eric, and I knew if I proposed something like a podcast, he'd be like, that sounds like a good idea. And it was, in quotations. We covered a lot.
At least once per week. Now I don't have to think about what my Instagram post is. And by me, I mean
the brand manager.
The same guy I mentioned earlier who, exactly.
Yeah, who gave way too much lip. And honestly, so one of his obligations, he has to listen to these episodes.
Thin ice. You've heard me. I know you're listening because you're supposed to pull out quotes here to create the caption. Don't include this part in the caption, okay? We're not looking behind the curtain here, okay? This isn't Oz. Yep. Thin ice. Carry on.
Yeah, so if you can indulge me then, I'm feeling a little nostalgic over the last 2 years. I'm reminiscing, okay? Cue your favorite song. Easy jazz listening. Maybe even, let's call it elevator music, because we don't want to think too deeply. We want the guys that we're reminiscing, but really we're just waxing on about each other here. Some of the best episodes, some of the highlights for you over the last, now it's almost 2 years. It's basically 100 episodes, 104 would be 2 years. 100 episodes, 2 years, man, of doing this damn thing.
You know, I like some of the more obscure ones that people might have forgotten about. I'm going to throw one out there. This isn't my favorite episode, but this is one that I really like that I think people probably should go back and check out. Alex Colliari-Turner, the history of anabolic steroids, muscle memory, and the potential role of long-term advantages from having taken anabolic steroids in the past. Excellent episode. And it's also a very cool emerging area of research where we're trying to uncover the mechanisms of muscle memory and understanding, myonuclear domain theory and some of that. And it's still changing. And there's some, it's a difficult one to research because it's very difficult to do in humans. So we're relying on rodent data, cross-sectional data, and people who have or haven't used anabolic steroids. And it's something that's very difficult to research because it's a controlled substance in most countries. So that's a fantastic episode. We go over not just some history, but also some science in that one.
Oh, no, Eric, that is a great pick. And one of the things I'm very proud of is the overall quality of the episodes. As one DLR quoted where someone said, hey, what's like your favorite song off the record? And he said, they're all hits, baby. I do think that for newer listeners, because it's not unfathomable, but we're still growing at a pretty fast clip. If you're new to the cult, that means that probably you haven't listened to the earlier episodes, and there are some hidden gems. And, I get 100 episodes, that's kind of daunting at 2 hours each, roughly. That's 200 hours, right? That's about a week and a half if you just play them at normal speed, don't do anything else, don't sleep. It's a small commitment for a lifetime of value. But I was looking back, Eric, and I just wrote it down here in my phone. But some of the early episodes were, as we joked when we were coming up with the concept of Iron Culture, history, science, culture, we came up with some bangers, man. Like we had episode 4, the one on periodization, where we had John Kiley on, okay, where we had the Zordos on, we had Mike Tashir, which is where the origin. So something which is natural amongst all podcasts, we build on top of references, and that was the episode that Mike Tashir came up with the most existential analogy when he basically said about periodization programming, being in a cave, the pen light being the program. You're not sure if it's pointing the right way, it's flickering, the biopsychosocial model, or the rocks in the cave, it's dark as hell, moving around and shifting constantly. And then you have the pen light, and you're not sure, once again, which way you're going, but you're confident now that you have a pen light and the map once again can be inaccurate, that at least you're heading in some direction. Boom.
No, honestly, that was So the cool thing about some of these episodes is that when people say yes, who I, don't have a solid relationship with, it is such a treat because they're someone who I've been reading or looking up to for a long time. So I'm very fortunate that I have I consider both Mikes, Zerdos and Tushir, good friends of mine. But there was a time point where there were people I looked up to and who I really wanted the opportunity to meet and work with. I remember for the record, when I started thinking about my PhD topic, Mike Tushir was kind enough to jump on, a Skype call with me and talk about RTS because I've been reading his stuff since 2011 and his usage of RPE and powerlifting. It was, it's very ubiquitous now, but it was revolutionary at the time. And the way he thought was so distinct from everyone else in the community. And he was having great success. I mean, he's arguably one of the greatest IPF lifters of all time, having competed at the World Games. And anyway, so to now have him be a friend, to have him to be able to know that I can ask him to come on a podcast and that he will make the time. And the same thing with Dr. Zerdos. He was my PhD advisor. I met him in 2013 at actually an RTS, a Mike T ran seminar, and his thoughts on, and he was doing some of the most cutting edge research in powerlifting, which was amazing. And then finally, John Kiley is he's written some, I would say, essential reading in terms of understanding periodization, and critiquing some of the at least some of the ways it's perceived and implemented, and what I would say is not the best way of doing it, and really asking us to go, okay, this is great, this is theory, but what do we actually know? And he's the perfect example of a skeptical thinker who doesn't just criticize, but also then brings it back to, and what do we do? And to be able to sit on a panel with those three gentlemen was just a huge treat for me. And it was something that I think the Eric of 2012, if you told him that was going to happen, would have been giddy for the next 7 years. So it was a true treat for me, man.
And I could tell you this, if you're to tell the Omar of 2012, who was viewing you on someone else's channel and thinking, hey, I like that guy, I want to work with him one day, that would be having a very successful podcast that makes negative dollars, I would have been happy. I would have said first, how much are we losing? Like, I just want to be clear, like, how much are we losing every single month, paying for the editor, having no advertisements on this, all this, and then I would be very grateful for the whole opportunity.
Well, Omar, look at it this way. Sure. If we didn't have Iron Culture to slowly drain our savings, we wouldn't be motivated to have this big push for Rascal Apparel or for me to have joined Mass. So Zerdos, Trexler, Greg Knuckles, you're welcome, because Iron Culture has made Mass so important in my life, because I would be living on the street without it. And if you're wearing a Rascal shirt right now, thank you for funding Iron Culture. Let's just say that.
No, Eric, I don't think you're wrong. And what I mean when I say that is that there are some people that rally against the notion of either eliminating student debt or helping those that have a student debt. And we're just objective proof that sometimes having crippling debt is a good thing, that it can motivate you to almost work to the point of beyond exhaustion, where it becomes all-encompassing, your goal. And so people around us say we're passionate. We know we just got to stay above it all, and we're trying to keep in the black instead of being in the red financially. So it works. It's easy. I do want to reflect on another one, and maybe at this time, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, you can go ahead, because we now get like 30, 40, 50 comments per episode on YouTube, and we do interact. You can let us know at this time what your favorite episode, or some of your favorite. You don't have to play number one favorite. You can list the top 3, top 5, top 10. We got 100 episodes. But one I want to reflect on, just the early ones, and I'm shouting out some of the early ones, Eric, because once again, if you're new, you take a look, like what's episode 100 has? What is episode 90? There's some bangers early on, and this is before, actually, this one was probably the first one where we had the audio EQ'd properly because of one of our guests, and that would be episode 6, the Carbohydrate Ketogenic Roundtable with Cliff Harvey and Danny Lennon. Interesting enough, it's the last time that he was invited in your house, unrelated, I'm sure. But after that, there was a vicious rumor started by the previous host that we don't even have to get into. Just know that Danny is a deadly serious individual, and that we would never make any light jokes about anything at all. And anything that previous host said were entirely misconstrued, and we're always on the right side at the end of the day. And that is in the realm of the living.
Absolutely. And yeah, so if you started episode 6, because that starts, honestly, we're still talking about it now. I guess technically, a 94 episode story arc
Yeah.
that's at least tangentially Easter egg referenced like it is now. But there was a definitive start and end to that story arc that we actually got to having a mandatory firing of our previous guests and
God.
the owners stepping in. So Omar Isuf and Eric Helms had to be fired so that the owners, Omar Isuf and Eric Helms, could step in. And then we actually, we had an intro that consisted of us bringing Danny Lennon on and trying to apologize to him in a very sincere way.
Very
sincere. He wouldn't take it, you know. So that's a fun story arc if you want to follow that, and it's still referenced today. So yeah, I think that's a perfect pick, Omar, because not only is that the start of one of her many side stories, the comedic relief to the meat in the sandwich, but really great discussion on carbohydrates from a lot of different angles. And Cliff he has a very holistic take, no pun intended, being the head of Holistic Performance Nutrition and the Holistic Performance Institute here in New Zealand. But Dr. Cliff Harvey now, at the time he had not yet finished his doctorate at AUT. About Dr. Cliff Harvey, one of my favorite people, and very intelligent, done a lot of interesting research in the realm of what he would call carb-appropriate diets. I would say it's very cool to hear two people who started from different viewpoints initially, took a very honest look at the research, and found a lot of common ground and were able to provide nuance in a space that is often dominated by two camps yelling at each other and looking for ways to strawman each other and not looking at the complete set of literature. So that's a great way to get a truly like fair and balanced, not just we need to give lip service to wrong views and right views because there's some contentiousness, but a truly fair and balanced look at all the different aspects of carbohydrate intake and how it may or may not apply in different populations and situations. So yeah, that's honestly easily top 10.
Yeah. And so I'm not stating any of these episodes are my favorite because I do some of the ones that I like. They're personal favorites, right? Such as the art of coaching that we had, where we had Dan John on, right? We had
that was my next pick.
Okay, go. Sorry, Eric, you go on.
I gotta
kick
say,
that one off.
So another one that was like just a mind-blowing treat for me, like a pinch myself, is this real thing, was we had, I when I thought of this combination, I was like, I don't think these people know each other, but man, they share so much in their philosophies and views and come from different disciplines. But we had multi-time national and world champ powerlifter Susie Hartwood-Gary and her significant other and experienced coach Matt Gary on, who are just forces in the USAPL, and I would say forces for good in the lifting community, as they take a very big picture look at what is important in life. And they've got an awesome podcast. It's not super regular, but every one is a banger where it's just them talking about life and lifting. And Matt Gary, fantastic music tastes, definitely leans in the same direction as me with having some love for some funk and some hip hop. And he has some great intros for all of those. But anyway, they have some great discussions on lifting and life. And I have had the true privilege of working in conjunction with both of them because, for those who don't know, I coach Bryce Lewis. He is a multi-time USAPL national champ and has also competed at Worlds multiple times. He's won a silver and a gold. Very proud of the young man. When he competes in these events, Matt is typically his handler. So and that's a job that is increasingly challenging and more important the higher you get, where it's not just a fun PR party where everyone's trying to go 9 for 9 and put up the biggest total. But there are a lot of challenging decisions to be made when you're going against the best of the best, and you have to be strategic, especially as you get down to your final lifts. And to be honest, even though I've been working with Bryce for over a decade now, I would guarantee that if I had Matt on the platform, or if I was on the platform instead of Matt, and he was, if I wasn't playing second fiddle and I was playing first fiddle, it'd be worse outcomes for Bryce because he's just that good, and he's had that much experience being with him in person since I left the States in 2012. So anyway, incredibly skilled at what they do, very experienced, a ton of wisdom, a lot of humility, and very open-minded and very good perspectives. It was amazing to have them on, in addition to someone who I've looked up to forever And when I met him in, I believe, the 2016 AFPT conference in Norway, that was the first time. I was just trying not to fanboy all over him. Dan John, someone who has been just a prolific writer and just a prolific thinker. And I would say there's no one better, and I'm confident saying that, at simplifying good recommendations for lifting and life and nutrition and health from, of course, a lifting perspective and putting it into actionable outcomes. He's such a great communicator. He is such a good soul. And man, he's just got a career that I think anyone could be proud of. And he's still doing the damn thing. Shout out to Dan John. He just got back on Olympic lifting platform.
Nice.
The man is in his, I believe, late 60s at the moment, and he's still putting up big numbers. And, you know, he's been a thrower for life, a lifter for life, and a very experienced coach for a long time. So 40 Years with a Whistle, fantastic book on coaching, life philosophy, all that. So we got to have those three powerhouses on talking about what it is to be a coach, the role of the coach, and why we lift, which is really almost the heart of what Iron Culture is. And there is so much wisdom and just so many gems in that episode. I honestly think, I'm almost going to say, like, if that's something of interest, that's the best episode on that kind of corner of Iron Culture.
No, I wouldn't disagree with you, Eric. And I think that part of the cult is honoring the legacy, honoring the past, and also those that were innovators, game changers, which is why, actually, another quick episode I want to give a shout out to, it was Mike Zordos that made the connection, was Jan Picca, where we had him on, the only guy, the musical taste, where I threw out the Jeff Beck reference and Weather Report, and he was just down, he knew all that stuff. But just talking once again, I think I'm always fascinated, Eric, at least I could say for both of us, with lifelong lifters or people that are in the iron sport for a considerable length of time. So it's not a 3-year, guess what, I did one show, or 5 years I competed in powerlifting, or 10 years I became a national champion, but, you know, life got in the way and now I have a family and all these things. The lifers, as we call them, which we know, we just took that, we had that 1,000-mile stare. We saw each other, it was like, yeah, we're committed. Some would say addicted. I say committed, once again. And others would put forth, they would posit that we just have crippling death. So we have to keep talking about this and that we really can never escape it. It's passion. Okay, look it up. But seeing someone like Jan, once again, incorporating, we're speaking about this off camera, Eric, lifting to assist in athletic performance and that side of the coin, which, once again, if we were to take, you know, a poll of individuals lifting and the reasons why they lift, an underrepresented aspect when it comes to the fitness industry or the Instagram space would be athletes that use weights or lifting weights in order to improve their performance. So it's very cool to see that combination, then him becoming a professor, talking about it, being about it, and then the overall role and importance of essentially a mentor or a coach.
Yeah, and I really like how you discussed the role of lifting for the purpose of enhancing some other performance, because there was a quote, not a quote, I'm sorry, there was a post on my, okay, let's try that again. I just learned how to use Instagram again. It's outsourced. I barely look at it. Just kidding. So there was a comment on my post about my Highland Games competition, and someone said, lifting is so much more enjoyable when you do it for non-lifting purposes. Yeah. And I think that's just a perspective that not a lot of, especially powerlifters or weightlifters have. I think bodybuilders have it to some degree, but it tends to be relatively one-dimensional. Most bodybuilding, it doesn't have to be, but it often is. It's become pretty cookie cutter and done in one way. Hopefully that's changing. But nonetheless, for a lot of athletes, even strength athletes like throwers, for example, a Highland Games competitor or a strongman competitor, they're quote-unquote general prep or quote-unquote off-season training, and I don't know if off-season's the best term for it, given how often Highland Games competitors compete and how there's not truly like a quote-unquote strongman schedule, and it's really just based on what's going on regionally. They'll have a general prep period of just general barbell training. They'll squat, they'll deadlift, they'll bench, they'll overhead press, they'll push press. They'll do a certain number of core lifts, and that is not directly something that they can attribute to their successes in the field or on the platform or in the show, depending on what the sport is. And I got a little taste of that in strongman competitions last year. I got a lot more of a taste of it when I did the Highland Games comp today, because I went in with that with no training, which was pretty cool. And I got to see what could this body that's been doing lifting of various types for 16 years, what can I do? How quickly can I acquire these skills that I'm learning on the day? And then how much, force and power can I put into these movements? And I didn't do bad. Like I said, top 6.
Hey.
You figure out where in that placing I was.
Top 6.
Yes. I think it speaks for itself. And I just note that first place is included in the top 6. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm being humble. Maybe I'm covering up for the fact that I got 6th place. How much do you trust me? That's the question, really.
Completely. No, sorry, you're rhetorical. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Rhetorical. Yeah, I know everyone trusts me completely. They better, or we'll block them. Yeah. But in all seriousness, I thought it was a really intriguing comment, even though it was relatively simple. I think it carried a lot of wisdom. And I think a lot of the challenge of being a powerlifter or a weightlifter is that you're constantly aware of the fact that you are or aren't making progress, and the whole grass is greener is mentality, or the fear of missing out, or negativity bias, just the many aspects of us being irrational apes that comes into our brain can really sap the joy out of the experience of lifting. And I think that's something to some degree that you avoid when you're an athlete who is lifting to aid your performance, because then the connection is less clear. So you train hard, you try to progress, you try to train in a logical way, you think about what you know about the school of lifting, kind of understanding the principles behind it and of periodization and of, specificity and all that. And you think, okay, well, how do I set up a system that hopefully will help me when it comes game day? But when game day comes, it's just game day, It's not like you're never going to have a powerlifting meet where you're like, the most I did was a 180 squat in training. I'm thinking I might have a good shot at 270.
Right.
That's not going to happen, But you may have had a lackluster or great training year, and because the transfer is not direct and it is only a small piece of performance, you don't know if you're going to get, weight for height higher than the last time you did the Highland Games. So it was an interesting comment. I thought it was something. I'm still reflecting on it now, even though I read it last night. And anyway, yeah. So I think that's a fantastic episode. It was great to have Coach Pick on. Jan was awesome. And recommendation from Dr. Zerdos. Thank you for that. And yeah, absolutely. That was one of our top episodes as well.
Oh, Eric, that variability of outcome, the diminished predictability, can also just increase then the excitement. Because when you think about it, you've been lifting for a long period of time. You got your goals, let's say powerlifting, and we speak with love because we're about this life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just from the inside, not from the outside. Some of these critiques where, roughly, like you're entering a meet, like what you're talking about, and you crushed your meet. Hey, we didn't cover that in an episode, but you did the damn thing. 6 weeks. Wow, what a strength return. But you knew, Eric, within a pretty narrow band, likely if you executed to your highest level, what you were going to get. And so almost sometimes for high-level lifters, after you got the initial 3 to 5 years and you're used to getting, 20, 30 extra kilos on the bar every single year and things start slowing down, it's almost like a neutral to negative outcome, because the positive would be that slight, I got like a 5 kg PR. That's it. Like I trained this whole year for this outcome. And that likelihood of that happening, whatever, 20, 30, 40, 50%. But then everything below that little tip of the iceberg is essentially a negative outcome, even if it in reality isn't. Oh, I tied my previous best. That's actually viewed as a negative outcome, because then we were talking about a time investment. I just invested an entire year to basically do the same. Or when you achieve a certain level where you're not at the top of your abilities, but man, you've been training for a long period of time, you almost have that entropic outcome where it's like, well, wait a second, I did 700 kgs last year. That was a really good year. This year I did 685. Oh man, I spent a whole year and actually went down. I don't want to make too big of a claim. Eric's like, just make the claim, man. Once again, we can never be wrong. But I had time a few years ago speaking about athletes and just their view on either lifting, movements, or everything entirely. Another one would be the physique paradigm. So how one views themselves and their body over time. And that is, a few years ago, I was doing a little bit of sprinting again. I joined, it was at a university, like a sprint track team thing that you could go to, cool, whatever. I just got talking with them. It was a wide variety of people. But you go, you eat with them, and what's funny, on average, these individuals, because they want to sprint faster, and that's another, once again, pursuit that you're trying to shave off milliseconds, and at a certain point, you might not achieve that. But what was interesting was one, their novel interest in lifting as it related to assisting in performance, but also just the relationship with their body, where I would say on average, the sprinting crew, pretty damn lean, like pretty damn lean individuals, but you go out and eat with them, and Eric, is a different story where, let's say you go to Chipotle, and they're not like, you go out with a bodybuilding bro, and not these limitations that we place on them, on ourselves.
Do you think those calories are accurate? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
She's not even using the same size scoop and the spoon on each one of those bean servings. Yeah, you don't hear that from sprinters.
Yeah, and Eric, they're looking mighty fine. Like they're a healthy body fat level. They're able to put out a high level of performance. And they're basically ingesting, they have that rough time, as we spoke about before, because they have a higher activity level. Naturally, what they sense their body needs is roughly a kind of what they need to ingest so they stay at a pretty good shape. But it was just interesting to me where, okay, you're very active, but your approach, almost like you chasing performance, and then whatever the aesthetic outcome is, happens secondary, and there's far less pressure. So there's a lot of insight there. I do want to jump because, we're reflecting here. We're not going to make it a uber long episode because we have a ton of episodes coming out. But what I wanted to say, talking about duos, just us together, we had a lot of roundtables, Eric. But some of the most popular and some of the ones I enjoyed the most, and of course, there's a huge bias here. Huge bias. Would be a lot of our duo episodes, right? And there's one I want to reflect on afterwards with Jordan Syatt. I don't want to forget that because I didn't write that one down. But one of the ones that stood out recently for me, so we're talking now the second year of podcasting, would be episode 72, Principles of Progression for Hypertrophy. I want to also add a little side note, Eric, is that much like you revealed that you're in your bedroom recording this, filming this, so people are getting a sneak peek at where the magic happens, I'm ready to reveal now after 100 episodes that right here, this is actually my bedroom right here. If people see the window, that's my little cubby hole, okay? You know Harry Potter, how he lives underneath kind of the stairs? That windowsill right there, that's where the magic happens. So I've also been intimate this whole time. And sure, people might hear that and think that is really tragic, and someone might try and start a GoFundMe, once again, due to the crippling debt we've put ourselves in. And I would just make a very natural pivot to the fact that we're talking about principles of progression for hypertrophy. Eric has a lovely, mass monthly application in strength sports that people could sign up for. It's monthly. It's very cost effective. He also has the muscle and strength pyramids. They're also cost effective. So in no way am I trying to relate those two subjects. My lack of financial security and me mentioning the two things that help you derive your income. But yeah, principles of progression for hypertrophy. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode.
No, and I think everything was very logical. You went from how I've only been in my bedroom for this most recent episode. You've been in your bedroom the whole time.
Right.
A little asymmetry of commitment maybe is what you're implying. And I would say there's no asymmetry because the only reason I'm in my bedroom is because there was a leaf blower outside of my office. So this isn't a sign of commitment at all. So I've had the same level of asymmetry the whole time.
Disinterest. Okay.
Yeah, or as you'd say, playing hard to get. And I know you won't stop. So
that's me every
the
time.
Best part.
Gets me every time.
Yep. You're just turning me on more. And that was a perfect lead-in to my books and my research review, which was a perfect lead-in back to the principles of progression. So
thank you.
If you couldn't follow the leaps, level up. Get better at platforming. So anyway, a little gamer reference there for you. But in all seriousness, that was a fun episode. It was good to talk about it because I think kind of hearkening back to that periodization roundtable, some of the things that we talked about there were how we can come away with these arbitrary rules based on the thoughts that others had come up with previously, but we haven't actually examined those thoughts. And sometimes we can land up in a place where this is the way you do it. And you ask the question, well, why? And the answer is, well, that's the right way. And so that episode was a good discussion of kind of unpacking some of the more common, I would say, current common thoughts on maybe how one should progress for hypertrophy. And then taking a step back and going, okay, what do we really know? And ultimately getting back to a place where we come back to, okay, well, these are options, but if we don't understand why we're doing it or what it can lead to or what might happen if we're basing it on the wrong ideas, we can get to a place that's actually counterproductive. So, that was a cool discussion. I'm glad that you liked the Mass article that I wrote that on to the point where you're like, you know what, we got to do a podcast episode on this. And I was down. So that was a good one. I think we've had some really good duo episodes. I do want to mention one other roundtable we had, and it's my last pick that I'll mention, And I think we've talked a lot about history. We've talked about culture. We're getting a little bit into the science now. This was a great meta conversation on science that we had with Brad Dieter and also Andy Galpin.
Yep.
And that is the problem with hashtag science. And I think this is a potential, honestly, it's probably the most common error people make when they start to become science interested and they want to use more science to inform their practice in the lifting world, is that it's so easily Trojan horsed by marketing. And it has been since the beginning, which is kind of the history connection. And to truly become someone who wants to use science, you have to not only just adopt a different sacred cow, but you have to let go of the idea that there are sacred cows in the first place. And that doesn't happen overnight. You have to do a little bit of a meta understanding of how science operates and how it doesn't telling you what the truth is. But like Ben House said on our more recent episode, it's just about disconfirming hypotheses and getting us further away from things that are incorrect. And then kind of what remains is probably something closer to the truth. And it's a slow process. It's a self-correcting process. And it's one that requires you to constantly check your biases, update your beliefs. And it almost runs directly counter to what is the kind of the guru mentality of needing to show no fallibility. And, you know, to take a little veil behind the curtain like you and I are Oz right now, the thing we constantly make fun of how you can't question us and we're never wrong, is directly creating a satire around the problems with that. And hopefully you picked up on that. But if you haven't, then at least you're laughing and we're all happy. You don't need to think too much. It isn't that serious. So anyway, I thought that was a great episode where we kind of juxtaposed some of the ways science is used inappropriately in the fitness space versus what science actually is, and the challenge of being a science communicator and promoting science without promoting hashtag science is what kind of we labeled the misuse of it.
So well put. No, and I think what we enjoy is that we're able to have satire that is so deep that a new listener listening to things, it's hard to separate the truth from the fiction, and that's just the way I want it. Okay, you got to be. It's almost. I have to give a quick shout out. There's a Canadian TV show by the name of Trailer Park Boys, which I actually do love. I love it. I think it's deeper in a lot of the humor than people realize. But the first time I saw it, Eric, this is a true story because it's filmed guerrilla style, very much like This Is Spinal Tap. I thought it was real. Like, I thought it was a documentary for the first 5 minutes, and I was like, oh, like this. At first, I was like, this is very sad. Then when you started to realize that it was satire, I'm like, this is actually pretty funny. So don't feel sorry for us is what I'm trying to say, because I think I revealed too much about myself and my current living situation, and that I just want to assure people that was merely a joke. This is not my bedroom. It's my bathroom. I do want to say that Jordan Syatt, that episode where we had on a personal training, the reason why I selected that one, it was probably one of the few episodes we did reflect on our past being personal trainers. There were various episodes where we kind of went deeper into the whole process of the function of a personal trainer, right? What does a personal trainer do? And also we've had various shades, because I'm going to mention it. I got to mention it, okay? Chip Conrad, the episode with him talking about the fitness industrial complex. So it's very interesting because we all have our different
shout
paths.
out.
Oh, shout out.
Are You Useful by Chip Conrad. Buy it now.
Can we not just make it a bestseller? I wish we had. So we will. This is what I want to attain. Okay, Eric.
Go buy 10 for Christmas. And if Christmas has already happened, go buy 10 for New Year's. If New Year's already happened, just go buy 10. You don't need an excuse except to make Chip Conrad the bestseller that he deserves to be. And knowing that he's a rebel with a cause, he'll be annoyed if he gets a lot of sales and happy at the same time. I just want to create that cognitive dissonance for that man. The true Iron Game dissident, getting back to the roots of physical culture. So anyway, I'll stop interrupting. I just want to give a shout out to my man.
No, we want to put him into a spiritual stupor where we want him to feel that malaise where it's like, wait, I'm getting money now. I don't want money. What am I? I'm supposed to help people. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to help people. And we just put him better on his path. But we do collectively, we actually have collectively definitely over a decade of in-person training experience, so personal training, which is just something that now is kind of evaporated in the modern age, Eric, where a lot of the individuals are coming up. Let's say the role is IG. So you're a casual lifter, you're a recreational lifter. Then you start on Instagram posting about your lifting. You start online maybe coaching. Maybe you you're going to university at this time, you're furthering your education, and then down the road, you become a researcher or something. You get your education that you're after, but that gap of being an in-person trainer, a lot of people don't experience these days. And I notice amongst my contemporaries that are just a few years younger, when they say they're coaching, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, have you coached in person? Not at all. It's Excel spreadsheets is the extent of my coaching. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I think it's very insightful because you're at ground level. And it's a microcosm of what's going on in the macrocosm of the fitness industry. You're seeing on a very real person-to-person basis.
And look at that overcompensation too. You know, we're all very comfortable calling ourselves a personal trainer when we're in person. And anyone who's been a personal trainer for any amount of time, you realize that you are constantly questioning, am I dipping into the scope of practice of a therapist right now? Am I dipping into the scope of practice of a registered dietitian right now? The answer is also yes. Am I dipping into the scope of practice of a physical therapist right now? The answer again, probably yes. And that's hard to manage, and you end up becoming the emotional support for someone. You end up becoming their friend.
Yeah.
You end up becoming someone who has a much deeper relationship, but you're called a personal trainer, which I think, if anything, diminishes what you do because it sounds like you're just training the person. Here's your workout today. However, then we move into the modern fitness era, when literally all you are actually doing is training them, but you don't even see it. You're just telling them what to do. Tell me how it went next week. You're giving them Excel spreadsheets and maybe macros, again, stepping into other scopes, but to a lesser degree. And now you're a fucking coach. Pardon my F-bomb there. But it's just funny to me, the overcompensation. When you actually deliver less, you have to then elevate the term for yourself. And people don't call themselves online trainers. So as I've often said, coach is a title that you earn, and it should be seen with great reverence, not one that you self-appoint because you did a competition and now you have a website. So yeah, I'm gonna take the soapbox, I'm gonna put it away, and I say we talked a lot of good stuff on some of the realities of being a personal trainer and just being in the fitness space with Jordan Syatt. I think it was, if anyone wants to be a coach or a trainer, whatever you want to call it, or eventually you get bestowed the title of, that's one to listen to, not one to miss for sure.
Yeah. And Eric, I would say perhaps the last reflection, because we covered the science, we covered some of the cultural aspects. I want to give a shout out to some of the athletes that we've had on, right? Where we talk about aesthetics and bodybuilding. So we talk about the high level. So we talk about Paul Ravella. We talk about John Meadows. We talk about Chris Bumstead. We talk about Brian Whitaker, but we had that was a really good, that actually, so a lot of the things he said, our favorite economics professor, he's trying to maximize given the constraints, very economics in the way that he phrased it. It's something that we refer back to once again, repeatedly in subsequent episodes. And I was speaking about aesthetics because let's face it, it's the most important thing, but we also had some fantastic strength athletes, where we talk about, once again, Kyle Lilly, we talked about the Highland Games, we talked about strongman competitors, Joey Zabner, we had Alan Thrall, we talked about powerlifters, we had Bryce Lewis on, Natalie Hansen, Steffi Cohen, Jessica Bittner, which I finally learned. She was an athlete of mine for 4 months with Rascal, and it was on that day I learned that Buettner. How do you think you would pronounce it? Just first glance, Eric. How do you think you would say it?
Buettner.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not. And and I think anyone who's calling her that, it's okay. Omar did it too. Now you know. But man, if we were to discount, and here's the way. By the way, here's the way it would normally be done in the fitness industry. We've had maybe, honestly, like probably 15 plus world champions on the show. We would now claim individually that we coached and were responsible for all of them.
Just the way it works.
We're coaching the like current raw and equipped world record holders. Yeah. We're coaching current Mr. Physique Olympia. We're coaching pro Highland Games competitors. We're pretty good just because they're on our podcast. That's the way that works. There's been a strong history of utilizing. I talked to this person randomly in the gym once, and now I claim their title. History of the traditional way it's done, and we're going to carry that torch forward. But seriously, we've had some amazing competitors on. Evie Corrigan, junior world champ here in New Zealand, who just did the Backyard Highland Games with me. That was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've had like Max Ada, fantastic weightlifter, now a coach. Same thing with the folks from Catalyst Athletics. Both Amy and Greg are fantastic lifters in their time, and now are great coaches. So it's been quite a treat to have across multiple disciplines some of the best folks in the game in multiple games.
Eric, and I know we could talk forever, but this is just a reflection episode. It is a thank you. I could say actually, to be serious for a second, that doing Iron Culture has made me a better lifter, more committed lifter, where, us talking about the philosophical underpinnings makes you think a little bit. And so while COVID's been going on, while gyms have been closed, it's been no problem either, getting after it in the backyard or just kind of staying on track in a way that the adherence is not even a question. So I can't wait this year. Hopefully things open up a little bit more so I can do some sort of competition. So I get my boy, because I was actually talking with the one and only Mr. Nipples, Jeffrey Nipples of the Kiwi Palace. He was talking about how he wants to lean down. And I said, well, I'm going to talk to Eric because, we spoke about that before. The plan was I'm going to compete in something. It's going to be strongman. And then I'm going to get below 20% body fat for the first time in my life. Interesting aside, by the way, I don't think this is related, Eric, and I don't think it's a controversy. So I shouldn't bring it up, but I am going to anyways. In a recent episode, I don't know if this is the reason why Joe Rogan hasn't posted our duo on his channel. But Jeff actually revealed on my YouTube channel that Joe Rogan, and this is 100% the truth, blocked him on Twitter. He blocked him on Twitter after Jeff questioned the validity of Joe claiming that gluten was causing his lower back pain. And so I don't know if that's...
I would have blocked him for that too.
Yeah,
to be honest.
It was way offside.
I think I'm not convinced that he necessarily knows exactly what gluten is, but eat gluten, back pain, as we know. Correlation equals causation.
Yep.
Boom. And if you're going to question that, block. But no, in all seriousness, I think that was back in 2015. I heard that anecdote. I smiled. I thought this is perfect. Because we've had Jeff. We're very fortunate to have had Jeff on the podcast, and that's actually another great episode. We had Jeff Nippard and Greg Nuckols on to talk about science communication and how both of them just broke the mold and then left it in its pieces and just said what. And dropped the mic, and then Greg was like, "Why am I holding a mic? I write blogs." and Jeff was like, "How'd you get my mic? I need that for my YouTube videos."
Right.
And then they fought. But all's well that ends well. So that was a great banger as well. You want to check that out if you want to think about maybe that blog posts are not dead, and that maybe YouTube is not quite as constraining to short form, pithy content as you might think.
Eric, is there anything you want to reflect back on before we just look then instead to the year ahead and all the things we plan on doing?
I want to just take some time for some gratitude, actually. Because one of the things that I think people forget is that podcasts come out a lot. They are basically the fastest paced long form content. They are one of the easier mediums to do, but they take time, they take energy, and I know we've had a number of guests on who are extremely busy, some who are not extroverted, some who aren't frequent guests on podcasts, and we reached out and we said, hey, would you be on? And many times we've had to juggle like 3 or 4 different time zones on the same episode. We've had to juggle schedules. People have made sacrifices to be on Iron Culture, and I just want to let everyone know how much we appreciated your time, your energy. We truly do think that we're having a positive impact on the lifting community, broadening everyone's horizons, perspectives, making connections between camps that at the very least didn't know anything about each other and sometimes had stereotypical or negative views about each other. So thank you for helping us do the good work. Thank you for helping people learn about their own history, their own culture, and learning how to incorporate science into it. So that's all I want to say. Just a lot of gratitude to all the guests we've had over 100 episodes.
Eric, well put, and I just want to express some gratitude because I already thanked the people listening. You're not getting a third time, okay? I said it twice. That's it. But I want to express some gratitude.
You're so needy.
You. See, it's like 3 strikes, you're banned, okay? We're just going to block. Hey, guys, appreciate the podcast. Block. Hey, guys, 5-star review on iTunes. No.
Block.
Removed. Block. Ban hammer. Some gratitude to you for doing this with me because it has gone by. The 2 years actually have flown by, where we actually spoke initially, and I'm not trying to be fatalistic when I say this. There's an end to everything. We spoke when we started, like, how many episodes do you think we would do? This isn't, we're not going on that Joe Rogan path, and I'm not throwing any shade at him, but that's an entirely different type of podcast where it's 1,000 episodes. There's still a lot for us to cover, but it actually has blown by, and I've been shocked in a very positive way at the amount of topics that we have managed to cover, how fresh it's felt, and then your ability once again just to rock this with me and make that commitment, because I know it's not easy for you. Okay, you actually conducting research, doing all those things, writing for mass. Where once again, I know what it's like to be housing insecure, right? Where we just don't know where we're going to be next. So like we know we need to be working, and this is basically a luxury for us to do this podcast. So you willing to do this with me, enter crippling debt with your boy? That means a lot, Eric.
Hey man, and I just want to say thank you for that show of gratitude, and right back at you. I was, media has changed in the last 10 years. I would say probably around the time of like The Wire becoming popular, to where there's a difference between long form content, which is TV shows, and shorter form cinema, which is movies. And good shows now are not these one-off things like the new adventure of the Star Trek crew or the random occurrence in a sitcom. They build, and this is the norm. And the ability to build characters, build storylines, build depth, and see people evolve or kill off main characters, things that never happened before, is the norm. And I think when someone goes, look, we need to get as many seasons as possible and just keep this going, and just never stop, try to go 8 seasons along with it, there's a higher probability that those shows get worse over time, which is honestly a huge disservice to the people who came along in the beginning and really liked it. A great example, and I am going to throw some shade, is Lost. Left so many potential plots that were interesting. Like, you watch the first couple seasons, like, sure, it's not The Wire. Even if you didn't watch it all the way through, it's nowhere close to something like The Wire, or any of the good shows that are out there. But I started watching that show, and this is really interesting. And I'm an easy hook for mysteries. Like, what is the smoke monster? Where is this island? Are they alive? Are they dead? And then just to see them not walk down all these doors they opened on us, not explaining anything, and then just basically make it a stupid ass ending. And then also, if you ever watch like the director's interviews, they act like you're an idiot if you didn't get it, and like, no, we did tie all it up. Just terrible. Yeah. So anyway, we're not going to do that. Omar and I got together and we said, we're going to have a mission. We're going to complete it. Do we know when the mission will be complete? No. We could be having our 200 episode thing in another year and a half, 2 years, however long it takes. I can't do math. But there will be an end, and it will be purposeful, and we'll both be incredibly proud of it, and it'll be a body of work. So I think that mindset leads us to not putting out episodes that we don't like or that don't have any purpose. It's just we need to fill a Monday. The closest we'll ever get to that is we've been trying to line up a guest, and we just couldn't make the schedule work. And we do a duo episode, and we have to come up with it on relatively short notice. But that's our commitment to you, dear listener, that you need quality every week, not just to make an episode to make an episode.
Very well put. And I think the only way that the cult can end abruptly is when we do that duo episode in person and we're finally both simultaneously arrested for tax evasion, much to the surprise of us, on air too, where we just throw a fuss. And that would, but see, that then launches our prison stories, which could be a whole other podcast. Like, just think, where we hiding the microphone? We got to hoop that shit. Like, there would be so many considerations, Eric. There'd be so many interesting tangents, and our perspective on life would probably change dramatically. So that's just like a whole other co-series as far as I'm concerned. The end of one thing is the beginning of something else beautiful.
We started as Lost and then became Prison Break. That's basically
yeah.
We're the mid 20-teens of half decent shows. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Solid. No, I like that. I think that's great. So we've reflected on 2020. We had a whole lot of banter. Yeah. Those who stuck around were the only ones we wanted here anyway.
Yeah.
Now, for those who are still here, let's talk about 2021.
In terms of our personal.
Okay. Also,
go.
Hey, in terms of the cult and also our own personal missions here as hoisters. First, we have to get out the crystal ball because we don't know what's going to happen in 2021. And I would put forth that we should be optimists.
Yep.
And we should think of 2021 as maybe we're going to see the needle get moved in a positive direction. We've got some vaccines coming out. Hopefully, the people outside of the U.S. at least will actually take it, based on some polling data that maybe a very large minority aren't interested in taking a vaccine.
Sure.
Great. We need more work to do
but...
on the science portion. Yeah, it's a little problematic. But anyway, let's say best case scenario, things go well, gyms are open, competitions are happening. Omar Isuf, are you going to move from being the strength journalist who is also the physical culturist who does it all but has never stepped in the ring? Are you going to throw down? Are we going to see you saying, I have competed?
Yes. No, I'm going to dip my pinky toe.
He just said, folks,
yes.
Hold on. There was no wavering. There was no, the first words out of his mouth were not words. They were a word, and that word was yes. We're not editing this out, Omar.
No.
No take backs.
Hold me accountable, okay? Burn me alive. It's okay. I'm used to it. I would say that this past year, before the competitions closed, like I had a plan from Alan for strongman. I was 175. That was one of the reasons why it's nice when you have a competition. I was floating around 180. I'm still like 181.5, 182 maybe. So it's like I'm just like 5 to 7 pounds away from comp weight. That's one of the reasons. I was practicing the movements. I had this. So this is pre-COVID. I had the lofty goal. Joey Zatmary he told me, and he was straight up. He said it has nothing to do with your abilities. I think actually you could perform very well at 175. But I said, Joey, what do you think the chances are that I could do like a competition in 2020, a qualifier, and then qualify for the Arnold? He's like, man, that would be like if you did that, that'd be insane. I'm like, okay, let's be unrealistic. Let's try. And the competition I was going to do with Alan, that was supposed to be in July, I believe, the War on the Shore. If you place first, it's one of the few qualifiers because it's that big. It's like the thing in California, I suppose, that you would qualify for the Arnold. So and Eric, the standards are insane for like the 175s, and this is no shade, but it's not drug tested. And I the only reason why I say that are some of these numbers are pretty, out there where it's like it's like 550 conventional deadlift, I think it was, for like max reps. And I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, your boy, I'll get 3. I'll go for the 3 and like get an eye pop.
That's right, because you can wear straps, you can hitch, you can bounce, so you get another rep out of that. You can triple.
Right. So something like that, and then the log. I think the log starts like, dude, it's great. Like what the competition was going to be. Maybe I think it was 230 for reps on the log press. I was like, this is big. Like these are all big numbers. I was like, all right, I understand why this is a qualifier for the Arnold, but away we go. So yes, if things return to normal, I might not pull an Eric. What I mean when I say that, let's say for whatever reason, powerlifting competitions is just something Canada is fairly conservative in terms of what it opens. Let's say, I don't know, like if there was a Highland Games competition and that was my avenue, I'm gonna play it by ear to see what's most feasible. I also should say this out loud, not an excuse, but just a matter of fact, that I ride public transportation. Again, not because I'm financially insecure. I just choose to do it. But I wouldn't. The accessibility would be an issue of reaching some of these competitions during a pandemic. If there is one in like rural Ontario, like it's a 4-hour drive, I'm like, okay, to go there. So yeah, definitely.
Wow. And I can tell you what, there's a lot of Highland Game comps that are around.
Yeah.
So I know that you will be able to find either a strongman or a Highland Games competition without issue. And hey man, you can always rent a car. I don't know. Well, hold on. If you rented a car, would you be allowed to drive it legally?
No, it's been that long. I've let my shit expire.
Uber it is.
Oh, hey, the $300. We were talking off air about how amateur lifting enthusiasts derive no money from their competitions. Like it's a $300 Uber to get the $300 back. You lose, you don't get any money. It's like, but come on.
Yeah, I don't know if an Uber driver is going to drive you 40 minutes out into like the fairgrounds in rural Ontario. That's a good point. So it will be somewhat limited by the geography and the situation. But I honestly, man, if we can get things under control, the vaccine is working, I think you got a solid shot in, maybe second or third quarter, maybe fourth quarter if you got to push it back of doing one of the two or multiple ones if you can qualify for something.
Yeah, man. No, I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if this would be cool. I don't know if New Zealand or the States will be in the position, but it would be really cool to see you come out here, do a New Zealand comp. We may still have quarantine, which would not be great for that. Or if you can go out and compete in like the Winter Warrior next year, which just happened a couple weeks ago,
Yep.
over at Untamed Strength, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah. No, one of the conversations I was having with Alan was to compete. So it's like, all right, so I do the War on the Shore, which would be very intense, and then he has a winter competition. So like, if that doesn't go well, try and do that. Try and qualify for something else. I'm just gonna call it out loud. If I do have to do a 2-week quarantine in New Zealand, it's gonna be in your basement. Like your gym is gonna be my quarantine, so you won't be able to lift, but I'll be just hoisting things.
I know that was only semi-serious, but we would have to get to the point where we went back to self-isolation rather than quarantine, and we would have to somehow sell that we would not be in contact during that period. That would be a tough one.
Right.
It would be a tough one.
And I probably just implicated us by saying it out loud verbally so there's a reference point, but
no one watches the 100th episode. We'll be fine.
Perfect. Yeah. The when I see 30,000 people on average watch or download an episode, again, that's one person that we hire just to click. Yeah.
And the rest of it is just our family with it on in the background on mute. So yeah.
Yeah. Feeling just guilted into watching, which I love. I love personally.
That's the role of family. Some say it's to always support each other through thick and thin. Mm-hmm. I say it's to guilt them into doing things that help you.
Yeah. That is very fair. I do want to say real quick, Eric, what about you? What are your goals, your personal goals?
Good question, man. So pretty cool things going on. So like I said, I'm truly grateful and fortunate to be in New Zealand, where we're faring as probably one of the best nations in the world with the COVID situation. So I think 2021 is only going to get better. We've had 2 lockdowns, and one was pretty short-lived, and the other one was moderately lived. I think it was 7 weeks. The other one was only 3, and it was only local here in Auckland because of a local outbreak. And there's been 0 community transmission except for a couple blips on the radar, and we've been able to do contact tracing and control it. So it's handled here essentially. And when a vaccine comes out, it'll be only more handled. So I suspect we're going to see a pretty robust competition schedule in 2021. And one of the things that's coming of that is that the Commonwealth Champs is coming to New Zealand for the IPF. Now, I think the one concerning thing is that if we still have quarantine, and this isn't like November 2021, so I think that's a reasonable time frame for it to be okay. But even if we're okay internally, but if you come from Canada or the UK or Australia to come here, or from another Commonwealth country, and you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, obviously that would just prevent any other nationalities from training and coming here. So that wouldn't work. But I'm fingers crossed. Like I said, if we approach this with a lens of optimism, that would be a really cool target. So to do that, I would have to reach a qualifying total, which in the 93 kilo class for Commonwealth Games, they have like basically the highest level of competition is like Worlds, and then Commonwealth and Oceania, and then Nationals is below that.
Yep.
So they have like different qualifying totals per weight class. And I think the Commonwealth Champs, it's the second highest qualifying total. It's like a 625 total for the 93s, which is very doable for me. If you actually have taken my current competition bests and you put them all together, it would be 625. So just putting together a good day on the platform, I would hit that qualifying total. And I believe I would have to also do nationals. So the game plan at this point is to do Auckland Champs, which is in April, and then Nationals, which has been moved up to July to give some space between it and Commonwealth, which will be in November. Now, that said, qualifying and getting picked for the team to represent New Zealand are 2 very different things. Like everywhere in the world, powerlifting is blown up in New Zealand. And, back in the day, I would regularly place in like the top 5 in the 93s in our country. But it's just because of low participation, if I'm honest. Like, I'm not trying to blow myself. Like, anyone who's been in powerlifting knows that a low 600s total is not competitive in the 93s. It's like competitive at the regional level in the 93s in 2013, So in modern times, it just means that I lift. So I do think I can get maybe a low to mid 600s total, which in pounds for those in the US or Canada who just is not very familiar with the metric, that's around 1,400 pound total. So it's really nothing impressive on a grand scale, but it's a huge PB for me. And it'd be really cool to do that coming back from my hip surgery and focusing on powerlifting. And we may have like an A and B team. So there may be scope to have because New Zealand's a small country, so we don't have a ton of lifters to represent. So there's a small chance in hell, like if I do like the best I could possibly next year, and a few other people aren't interested in competing, I could get a shot to compete for New Zealand and contribute a very low number of points to the team. So
yeah.
I want to represent New Zealand and bring the team down. That's my goal. Yep. No, but in all seriousness, at the very least, I want to hit the qualifying total and put in a submission to compete at Commonwealth. And like I said, most likely won't get selected. And if that's the case, awesome. I do nationals in July, and then for the rest of the year, I'll probably do like weightlifting and Highland Games again, because that was a blast. I can't tell you how much fun I had at the Highland Games.
Seemed like fun.
So I might do a qualifier and then Masters Nationals for weightlifting again, which is in October, and then look at Highland Games comp if sometime later in the year or two. So I think that's probably what it's going to look like for me. It's going to be another fun-filled year of strength sport in 2021, and with probably more of an emphasis on powerlifting, either for at least the first half of the year, if not for the whole damn year, if I am a chance in a hell able to qualify for that Commonwealth team.
That sounds amazing, Eric. And let me just say, if they don't select you, I mean, we just found ourselves the next controversy, because they're trying to silence us, they're trying to keep us down, they're trying to minimize our voice. But the cult is rabid, they're zealous, they will not put up with this. We know this. So if that should happen, just wait and see what happens. And that's not a threat, that's just a fact.
You know what? We're getting to the point where you blacklist us, you just realized that you were taking on not a paper tiger, all right? No. A sleeping tiger, as a great general or admiral in Japan realized in World War II after the Pearl Harbor bombing. If you want to come at us, you're going to realize who has more power. And Iron Culture is only growing. We have devotees of the greatest level of commitment. And you know what? You might find that the Commonwealth Champs was canceled, and instead, on the same day, the same venue, is the Iron Culture Champs. Wow. So you can either let me in, or I won't let you in. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna David your Goliath, and we're gonna probably King Solomon your child. Okay, there's gonna be some things going on, and if you don't get those references, that's okay. On the day of, you will. So Eric, I could just say in advance, and of course, whatever we say here is not only for posterity, but it's just to set the record straight. Congratulations on making the Oceanic team for going to the Commonwealth. Yeah.
The New Zealand team for Commonwealth. Oceania.
New Zealand.
Different region. That's okay. You're from the Great North. It's very cold up there. It's confusing.
It's frigid. And let me just say the insulation here, not great. Okay, not great, because once again, that costs money. I can say that looking towards the future now, when it comes to the cult and the content we plan on putting out, we only plan on doubling down on the various aspects that we cover, the guests that we have. One of the most tantalizing aspects when we were first talking about this, that Eric said, I'm like, man, you're actually right, is that we get your favorite expert, the person that they look to or the person that they reference. And we only plan on doing that more, where there's a lot more actually to cover, but the same level of quality we plan on putting out. So we're not selling out because we haven't been offered anything yet, but we plan on doubling down. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another thing. Is this will be a with the lens of optimism, big call out to all of the potential sponsors. We're going to state that we're not selling out because we're going to keep it real and stay true. But the real thing is we're just waiting. So anyone who does want to help us sell out, we're happy to change the name of the podcast, the focus. If you suggest something that's in a completely 180 direction of what we're currently doing, we will seamlessly make it seem like we've always been about that. This is the cardio non-culture podcast, where we don't believe in culture, we just believe in running. Yeah. We could do that without even thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? I will absolutely discuss with my Instagram brand manager on how to do deep fakes of me on endurance athletes, putting my face on them, because I'm going to keep lifting. But people don't need to know that. So we can absolutely fake the funk if the price is right.
And Eric, so I didn't tell you this because I thought the offer, it was an insult just because the money wasn't good enough, not because ideologically I disagreed with anything. And I think this is probably just because the corporate execs that were reviewing some of our episodes just sense the smoldering underlying sexual tension with us. Anyways, There's a brand, I don't know if it's also in the United States, but it was big in Canada. It's called Toys R Us, and we're going to be a sub brand called Boys R Us. And so we're just talking about hunks being hunks. The thing is, the money wasn't good enough. And so I didn't even bring the offer to the table. So I should correct myself. It's not like we've experienced 0 offers. We've experienced 0 sensible offers.
You know, the funny thing is they tried to play Divorce Daddy against Divorce Mommy on that one. They contacted me too, and I had a similar thing. See, they think just because we parent separately, Iron Culture, that we don't have the same rules. We do. We don't play that shit. So they contacted me as well, and they had an excellent offer. I'm guessing this was after you. The money was right, but in the fine print it said we also have to assume all debts and losses associated with Toys R Us.
Oh.
So...
yeah,
I thought that was just maybe a risky proposition based on how that company's been doing.
Yeah, we're not at the point right now where we could hedge those bets. In fact, if anything, we got to do the safest option possible. Which is why if you see a name tag, so hey, just another final aside. If you see a name tag on my shirt while I'm recording an episode, I likely have a shift after. So we're just trying to do the most financially prudent things to get us forward.
Yeah. So, we're moving forward. And, this episode's gone on a while. So now I think since
we did our
you are
obligation,
moonlighting,
yeah.
I think you walk us into the moon. Tell us what they can expect on the next episode. When will we be back? I mean, people are probably thinking, it's been the 100th episode. When are we going to see him again? Is it Monday? I don't know. Yes, you do. Blocked again. It's always Monday.
Right.
So, yeah, we're just blocking and talking well into the 2021.
Yeah, and I just want to echo everything that Eric said, that we want to thank everyone sincerely for listening, to helping us make it this far, for all the positivity, for the shares, for the likes, for the reviews, which are very funny. And honestly, I think in another episode we'll take some time just to read a few of them briefly, because it does mean a lot to us to see the impact and to understand that a lot of what we're doing is making an effect on people. So that's us being serious. That's all I got to say. If you're curious when the next episode is, I'm not even going to say it, okay? What I will say is you made it to the end. You're a loyal listener. This has been that hot content on the interwebs. Do us a favor. Leave a rating and review on iTunes. I won't tell you what it should be, because I'm told you're not allowed to do that. So I'll just flash a hand. I'll give you a high five for those that are listening by video, and say, hey, I always liked 5 fingers. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. On YouTube, you can go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll see you when I see you, because you should know when we see you.